IVM. Do you feel like this pandemic, we've spent like way too much time shopping,
Yes. What else is there to do? Is
right?
all you can do.
And I also feel like when I look at my clothes now, I feel like I've particularly picked out clothes of the exact same color. Like I have this huge pile of blue clothes and a huge pile
Oh.
of pink clothes, and that's it. I don't have any other color.
Did you generally used to wear other colors?
Yes.
Oh. I don't know. I feel like before the pandemic, I really liked black. And during the pandemic, I wore again a lot of black. And I still like a lot of black. But that's because my soul is black. That's a different thing. But yeah, I think maybe I do gravitate towards specific colors. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I don't know. But now I've decided that if I buy anything, it's definitely not going to be blue or pink. And if any person buys me anything in blue or pink, I will, I don't know.
I just saw you buy something blue for Diwali. Like I watched you do it in front of me.
Oh man, I did. Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast, you know this already, and we talk about crimes that are done by women, mostly Indian, usually. That's our thing. I am Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And today we are speaking about a woman who was a spy. So we're talking about Noor Inayat Khan. She was a British agent stationed in France during the peak of the Second World War, where she served as an officer in the Special Operations Executive, or the SOE. Noor was Indian on her father's side, and he heavily influenced her ideals of nonviolence and pacifism. Yet, for her country, she went to war as a spy, eventually getting caught by the German forces and tortured for months before finally being executed. So Noor was and still remains an icon of feminist history, and this is her story.
That's right. And before we start, this is a story about wartime. Noor is a spy. So obviously, there's going to be some depictions or descriptions of extremely violent acts, including the fact that we told you Noor gets tortured towards the end of her story. So please, guys, this podcast is not meant for kids. Do not let your kids listen to this. Adults, discretion is advised.
Raghavi, I am excited
Why?
because it's context time.
I thought I'd give you context to do context this time.
Why?
Because you can. I believe in you, girl.
Okay. I'm gonna try. All right, it's time.
I think you do a great job. Godspeed.
Thank you. All right, it's time for some context. So, 1940, at the peak of World War II, Britain was kind of dying. So the US has not yet joined the war. They'd only selfishly do it much later after the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. But the Brits needed a lot of help, especially when it came to espionage. And wartime espionage is hella dramatic.
Yep.
Especially because all the major players in Europe, that's Germany, Italy, Soviet Union, they were all putting intelligence at the heart of their military operations. Needless to say, there was a tangled web of espionage happening across the world, and Britain really wanted to step up its game.
Fair.
So, on 22nd July 1940, the country set up a unified unit under its military called the Special Operations Executive, or the SOE. The SOE was also called Churchill's Secret Army.
It's like Dumbledore's army. But
Yes.
But well, the stakes are much higher because it's not fictional. This is real life. Winston Churchill really is the prime minister and they're really at war. So that was a bad analogy. You go ahead, Nisha, with your thing.
Thanks. Now, the SOE legit killed it for like several years. Okay, so between 1940 to 1944, they forged a ton of paperwork, developed state of the art weapons and camouflage techniques, recruited and trained hundreds of operatives in espionage, and supported the active military in procuring intelligence to help combat the Axis powers. If you want to know who are the Axis powers and the Allied powers, go back to your 7th standard geography textbook. They also use like wireless communications to get messages across to their operatives. And a major victory of the SOE was breaking the Enigma code, which the Germans were using to transmit their messages via cryptography. Sure, they treated the man who broke the code, Alan Turing, like absolute crap. But yeah, it was a victory nonetheless. Also a victory. This is a movie that I have seen.
Congratulations. You only watched it because Benedict Cumberbatch is in it. And
Shh, keep quiet.
Okay, fine. Please stop watching movies while thinking with your loins. It's not cool. But you know what? You know who else was in the SOE? Ian Fleming. He's the guy who wrote the James Bond series. And
Ooh.
James Bond is like the most well-known spy ever.
I mean, he's not the most well-known spy. I mean, have you not heard of Spy Kids?
Yes. No. I can't even fault you there. I agree. The Spy Kids are the most well-known spies in the world.
Indeed.
Carmen and Junie. You're part of my childhood. But Ian Fleming is also like particularly interesting if you think of the context of where he came from. He came from a really wealthy family, but he decided to become a naval officer. And the SOE is where he learned things like unarmed combat and lock picking and even cracking safes, just stuff that James Bond does really well. And one of the cool things that I read up was most Bond villains, they're not English or American. Because Ian Fleming always wrote Bond villains as coming from Central Europe or Russia or the Slavic states. Because he was clearly a product of his time in the SOE. The SOE would have constantly fed them like, anti-Axis sentiments, sometimes even racist. And that is a product of what he said. So I found that pretty cool when I was reading up. It was a pretty cool thing to come about. Yeah.
So that's broadly what you need to know about the SOE and Ian Fleming. So the SOE was an organization that kind of put together it was put together to combat the enemy forces. And yes, I'm using air quotes when I say enemy forces.
Of course.
But also, please remember this. If you were an SOE operative and you were found or captured by the enemy, the SOE will straight up disown you.
Yeah.
There is a clear reason for this. Even in wartime, it's not considered okay to spy, at least in the official circles. Informally, everyone and their mom was spying on you. So, but if you got captured, your home country just can't come out and be like, hey, enemy country, please return the spy you have captured because I sent them over to get secrets about you. I hope that's okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. Regards, country. Yes. So their only choice is to just disown you.
That's fair. Yeah.
You've been also trained to not crack under pressure because let's face it, if the enemy captured you, there's no way they're going to murder you right away. They will look for information about you, find out if you were important. And if you were, then good luck to you because they will torture the hell out of you until you tell them what you want. And that's just pretty much how espionage worked.
Yeah. Also remember, espionage is illegal in literally every country. It's just the one thing that unifies all of them. They all don't like spying.
Espionage is illegal even in your own country, even if you're spying on your country's behalf. So I don't think there's not one country in the world that will accept that they have spies planted everywhere. Because,
of course, yeah.
I mean, today we mostly live in a world where diplomacy and international relations is that takes public precedence over military intelligence. So even today, even if you're a spy for your country and you get caught doing some shady spy stuff, then you are done for. I mean, you haven't even technically committed a crime, but your home country will not claim you back. So you just kind of have to languish away in prison in a foreign land, hoping to God that you're not waterboarded for secrets that you don't actually know.
Dude, I asked you to set context, but you just went off and shattered my very soul with all those details. That was hella descriptive.
I think that's the Nisha way.
So let's get down to talking about Noor, the woman. So
Yes.
Noor was born on 1st January 1914 in Moscow, Russia.
Hmm.
So she was the eldest of four children, all of whom were sisters. Her
Hmm.
father was Inayat Khan, and he came from a very old family of Indian Muslims. And
Hmm.
also, he was a direct descendant from literal royalty. So
Hmm.
his great grandfather was Tipu Sultan. Some of us know was the ruler of the kingdom of Mysore from 1782 to 1799. That's
Hmm. Hmm.
17 years, I think. Tipu Sultan is notably one of the earliest rulers that fought British colonization, and he was thought to be very progressive when it came to religious freedoms, or at least as progressive as you can get in
Yeah,
those
I
times.
guess. Hmm. Hmm.
Noor's father was a musician who was born in Baroda, and he traveled extensively in India and abroad to perform his
Hmm.
classical and Sufi pieces. Now, during his travels in the US, he met Ora Ray Baker, who
Hmm.
eventually changed her name to Pirani Amina Begum.
Hmm.
Pirani was an American. So the couple married in March of 1913 in London, and they lived there for a few years.
Hmm.
But just a little while after that, I think 2 years after would essentially be when World War One started,
Yeah.
and the couple moved to Moscow instead. Here
Hmm.
they had a family. In 1914, like we said, Noor was born, and all the other daughters also followed soon. So Noor, she was said to be a very quiet and shy kid, almost
Hmm. Hmm.
reclusive sometimes. She's also described in some books as dreamy because she
Oh.
often daydreamt scenarios in her own head.
Well, that
Um,
sounds like any normal kid
it
stuff, but
is
sure.
me today.
Yeah,
Yeah. We got like, I mean, I like daydreaming about stuff, man. It's fun.
of course.
And like her father, she loved music. So
Hmm.
all the kids in the family played some instrument or the other. Noor
Hmm. Hmm.
she excelled at the piano. She would pen short songs and sing them for her family all the time.
Oh,
Um,
cute.
I know it's really adorable. It's really wholesome,
Yeah.
just overall. In 1926, her family moved to Paris, and her
Hmm.
father taught music lectures in the local college there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Noor would often write the words of her father's songs both in English and Urdu. She just clearly loved this. Music
Nice.
was a huge part of her life.
Yeah.
Her father also, like, he had slowly started moving away from Islam and began the practice of universal worship, which
Hmm.
sort of
Hmm.
recognized all religions as equal.
Hmm.
So her upbringing was somewhat well rounded, in the sense that she had influences from across the world. Her
Hmm.
parents themselves, various cultures and religions. It was a very, I guess, like melting potty type of experience for her,
Right. Right.
which she basically comes off as like an oddly global citizen sort of a person. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So there was one description of Noor that I found very interesting. Noor was very, very disciplined.
Mhm.
So some accounts say that she was the most obedient of all the four children. When the children sat for dinner, they would be extremely quiet and only speak if they were spoken to. Their parents
Mm.
hardly scolded them because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
When Noor first joined school in France, she didn't know any French, and
Mhm.
she was also the only darker skinned child in school, and she felt kind of
Mhm.
left out of the activities.
Mhm. Mhm.
But she fought her isolation, she made friends, and she excelled in school. She even practiced extensively on the piano. She
Mm.
also went on to play the harp. So
Sweet.
yeah, when she grew up, she studied child psychology in France,
Mhm. Mhm.
as well as music at the Paris Conservatory.
Mhm.
Also, she started a career as a writer, mostly
Mhm.
writing children's books. So, in 1939, she wrote a version of the 20 Jataka tales
Yeah.
inspired by the Buddhist Jataka stories about the previous births of Gautama Buddha. And, dude,
Damn.
this is crazy. She's not only gifted and she's talented, but she's also super hardworking. I mean, I feel like this is not even fair.
Yeah, you know what? Like, this feels like when you meet like a really attractive person, like in real life, and that
Mm.
person's like super fit and they eat healthy and they work out and all of that. And you make yourself feel better, because you're a potato. Because, like, on the inside, you're like, aha, well, they're attractive and therefore they must be mean. But
Yes.
no, that person's also like just really nice. Like, they're a nice
Oh,
person. They speak politely to restaurant staff. They leave a good tip. They're generous. That's the worst part of all of this. If you're attractive,
yes.
you should be mean. Otherwise, you're not, you're making it really hard for the rest of us. So just
I swear.
get lost.
I have too many friends like this. You know who
Ugh,
you are.
worst. I also know them. As
Yes,
in, I know
that's
all
true.
your friends. So,
So, yeah, Noor just seemed like a really nice, smarted, gifted person who's just also very hardworking.
good for
Yeah.
her. Congratulations, Noor.
Yeah, you're going to eat your words because life was not all that amazing for Noor.
Yeah, fair, fair, fair.
In 1927, when she was 13 years old, Noor's father passed away. So now she had to kind of take on the role of a parent, and she was also the oldest sibling. So, does that remind you of anything at all?
Okay. So both Nisha and I are older siblings.
Yes.
And while our parents never told us in any way to be that,
Mm,
there is just an inherent part of me and Nisha that'll just become parents,
yes.
especially like if our own parents aren't around. And I mean, like, if my parents step out for groceries,
Yes.
I just make myself the parent of the house, which is, I'm working on that. Nisha's
Yeah.
working on it too.
I'm sure our siblings don't appreciate it. But you know what the
No.
funny thing is?
Mhm.
When both of us are together, we become surprisingly irresponsible.
That's really true. Dude, it's genuinely, dude, like, you know what? Whenever I'm just doing my own thing, when Nisha and I are doing our own thing in our own separate houses, we get to bed on time, we eat well.
Yeah.
Whenever she comes and hangs out with me at my house, bedtime, oh, it's 2:30 a.m.
Yes.
It's just, it's so dumb.
Also,
Man.
corner house every day.
Oh, just get out of my face. Let's go back to
Worst,
Noor.
worst. Yes. But I guess it kind of makes us understand where like Noor was coming from now that she had to become like the parent. I just kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it must have been really difficult for her. Okay, like this
Yeah.
is just to become a proxy parent now. I can't even imagine myself in that position. That's really awful.
Yeah. And also because her father always told her to, Noor never gave up her gift of music. So
Yeah.
most importantly, she loved how like her father had loved India, and especially because like he grew up there. So she was once quoted as saying, I wish some Indians would win highly military distinction in this war. It would help to build a bridge between the English and the Indians.
Okay. You know what? She's young. I don't want to like read too deep into it, but that really simplifies colonization a lot. Okay. She's young.
Yeah.
I don't want to like, it's fine. I get it.
Yeah, but you know, somehow I feel like this statement was kind of prophetic because she would go on to win a bunch of awards herself.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's actually absolutely accurate. Yeah, so I think by 1940, you know what was happening? The Second World War was in full swing. You can't really miss it. Everybody was talking about it. It was the talk of the town. So the thing was, living in France was no longer feasible because in just like less than a year, France would be occupied by Germany full time. Also, that essentially meant that France was just constantly being bombarded by Germany
Yeah.
as well, and airstrikes and all weren't fun, you know.
Yeah.
So the family fled to Bordeaux, and then by boat they moved to England. By the way, Noor, she was a pacifist by nature, and she believed in the Gandhian principles of ahimsa, which is non-violence. And she did want to stand her ground in France because it was her home. It's the only home she's ever known.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming sort of aggression from the Nazis obviously pushed her. She had to think of her family as well, right? So she moved to England. But this aggressive sort of vibe that the Nazis put out made her think, hey, should I consider a career in the military?
Yeah, it's wartime, and she was a psychology and music major. Just realistically speaking, there was no way she would have been able to continue her old way of life,
Yeah.
right? The only real gainful employment that she could have had was the military, especially because she would have felt like she needed to support her family.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That's the realistic part of that as well. But I romanticized it a little cutely because I could. So after Noor landed in England, she signed up for the WAAF, which was the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. So she trained here for a year as a wireless operator. And, you know, just like everything else that she touched, she excelled at her job.
Of course, of course.
Of course. And most importantly, she was bilingual. So she spoke French very well, but also she spoke English with an impeccable British accent if she needed to.
No.
Dude, like, how is this even a real person? I don't like,
Why would you say that?
dude, she feels like a character in a movie, okay? Like she's written for a movie. Like she's a Mary Sue. You know what I mean?
Oh, for those of you who don't know, Mary Sue is like a fictional character that seems to have no real weakness or flaws or anything like that. But
Yeah.
to be honest, it's not like she just got these talents out of nowhere, right? It makes sense considering who her parents were, where she studied, the fact that she lived in so many countries, and also clearly established that she is a hardworking person.
Okay, maybe I'm just a little jealous. I don't know.
Fair.
Dude, like, also, we got to this right at the end. It doesn't really mean much, but I've seen her photos and she was beautiful. Like,
Oh,
she's just
true.
stunning.
Very pretty, very pretty.
She's got like
Yes.
heavy Peggy Carter vibes.
Yes, that is who she reminds me. I was like sitting and
Yeah.
thinking, like I saw those photos, I'm like, ooh, what is the? Yes, it's Peggy Carter. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It
you know
makes
what? I forgot about this. We haven't watched this movie. Oh, I haven't watched something.
Yay!
It's actually a TV show, so I didn't want to put too much time into it. But Radhika Apte plays Noor Inayat Khan in this TV show that I'm forgetting about. We should check it out at some point.
A Call to Spy.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Dude, there was too much information about her out there. I didn't want to
There
add a
was.
TV show to that also. But yeah, man, I mean, it makes sense that she would play her because she's also stunning. So good for her.
Indeed, she is.
Yeah.
By the way, there's another TV series coming out with Frida Pinto.
Of course there is.
Yes. Yes.
Fine. On this note, let's take a little break. When we come back, more stuff about Noor and what she did. Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood,
Get accustomed to womanhood.
enjoy the experience of sisterhood,
Might get to wifehood
or not, choose motherhood,
or not. You'll learn to define your personhood.
earn a livelihood,
Change the neighborhood.
and get rid of the falsehood that life post academia is easy.
So join me, Natasha,
And me, Ayushi,
on a journey from station starting point.
to station, what now?
Next station, Pudin station, and hopefully Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.
Welcome back, everyone. When we last left you, we had just summarized Noor's life, how she slowly moved away from the life of music to a career in the military. So let's get into it a little further. So when we last left Noor, she had just joined the British Women's Auxiliary Air Force. Her rank was that of an aircraft woman second class, and she trained as a wireless operator. Now, this was like the classic woman's job back during the war. The other one was just being a courier. That was pretty much usually it. Women weren't really allowed to do much else. But this batch of wireless operators that Noor was assigned to, they were just a bit different. She also did quite a bit of physical training and drills, much like the men. Her barracks had straw-filled mattresses, which were cold and uncomfortable. She wore a uniform, just like the rest of her command, and they were instructed to respect the uniform for what it was. It was basically like an extension of the nation of Britain and her ideals.
Right.
So Noor found a purpose here at the WAAF. She found herself kind of belonging to a group of people that respected her, and in turn, she respected them as well.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So in 1943, however, she was given a new chance. The SOE recruited her. So Noor was told that the SOE's operations were very, very different. She would be isolated from her family for long periods of time, and she would be working some very dangerous field missions. Noor, the person that she was, she didn't think twice. She just said okay almost instantly.
Reckless.
So from February 1943, Noor was recruited into the F section of the SOE, which was specifically designed for France-based operations.
Right.
She trained further as a wireless operator, this time with added security training and practice missions. Her missions in particular were to find places in foreign cities from which spies could transmit back information to their instructors without being detected by an agent who may have been following them.
Right.
So Noor moved back to Paris and she started her work ASAP.
What? Dude, it's just been a few months of training. You would have been
Yeah.
4-5 months at best.
Yeah, which is why she initially did not do well.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, Noor was terrified of weapons at the beginning and like would visibly get nervous around them. Her colleagues on the ground often complained that she might be too young, too inexperienced, and she kind of was. She apparently left codes lying around like all the time and didn't clear it up.
What, bro?
Yeah.
That's just stupid. Okay. You have to clean desk always. Okay. Even I know that. And I'm just a corporate slave.
Actually, that makes sense to know if you're a corporate slave because it's one of those things, Kanban, Kaizen, one of those things.
Yeah. In infosec training, we all have it. It's just
That's the one.
That is the one.
So yeah. Also, accidentally one time, Noor revealed that she was British to a bunch of French people. Guess what she did?
She called it chips instead of fries.
No, that's a good one. But no, she poured milk into her cup before the tea, which is apparently a very British thing to do.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I put everything in a big thing and then I heat it up. Or I just have coffee with tea.
Yes. I don't drink tea because lactose intolerance.
Why do you drink coffee? Oh, black coffee. That makes sense.
Black. Like my soul. But yeah, so also her colleagues were kind of racist towards her.
Uh-huh.
They kept asking if her Islamic upbringing made her the right fit for an active military role.
What does that even mean?
I
It's
don't know.
fine. Whatever.
It is a yikes. That's what it is.
It is a yikes. That's fair.
A superior officer of hers, a Colonel Frank Spooner, once said about her, Noor is not overburdened with brains, but has worked hard and shown keenness, apart from some dislike of the security side of the course. She has an unstable and temperamental personality, and it is very doubtful whether she is really suited to work in the field.
Okay, first of all, not overburdened with brains
Yes.
is the coolest way to say someone is stupid. I am going to use that often.
It sounds like a very Sherlock thing to say.
It does sound like it, but Sherlock would have deduced it by looking at the shape of your fingernails and the
Yes.
curve of your wrinkles or whatever. Stupid ass. Anyway, before we get any further, I do want to sort out one quick thing.
What?
So, Noor just joined the military, right? And she became
Yeah.
a spy. Is that so wrong?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. And I shall also give you the answer.
Ah, perfect.
Yes. So, espionage is a crime in literally every country in the world. Noor was spying on Germany, at a time when their criminal code punished spying with death. And it's wartime. Of course, they're going to do that,
Yeah.
The chances of information leaking during wartime can be much, much worse. So, I mean, there's also a possibility, of course, you could just get deported or imprisoned for a long period of time. That is a best case scenario if you're caught spying. And as we said before, there's a chance your home country will just refuse to accept you again because you're just a pawn in their larger overall game. So, espionage is a crime. Don't do it. You won't come out alive. Also, like the thing is, people are not skilled enough to really do it. We've seen Madhuri Gupta do it too. And thing is, like the kind of people who want to be spies, who think it's a cool thing to do, they're not even skilled enough to put their own socks on in the morning. Okay. And the other thing is, they believe they are like Tom Cruise from the Mission Impossible
no.
movies. I know. You will do it. You will die, guys. It's a crime. Don't be a spy. There we go. That's my motivational poster for today. Yeah.
Don't be a spy. You will die.
Oh,
I like it. I like it.
Much, 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 much. Let's do it.
Good job. You really thought this one through, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Back to Noor though.
Yes.
Noor stuck around in France, okay, despite all the reservations about her. For one, she adopted the code name Madeline, which I thought was very cute. I really like it. It's a cool name. Second, within a few weeks of her arrival in Paris, 10 of her fellow operators had gotten arrested, okay?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and the Brits were like, bro, just come back. It's getting too dangerous out there. But Noor was like, nah. So she just instead just stuck around. And we know by now that if anything, Noor is at the very least disciplined. If she doesn't pick up something, she learns it on the job. So she stuck around in France and she did the work of 6 operators in one go. Did she enjoy burning herself out? Maybe. Maybe in today's world, she would have been an investment banker. I don't know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so like she just clearly enjoyed doing that, And also like she dyed her hair blonde to avoid being detected. Of course, she had to carry around a bulky suitcase everywhere. Basically, you're carrying around a portable transmitter. And it's, like technology back then was not,
Yes.
you know what I mean, right? So yeah, it basically came to a point where she had to carry on this giant suitcase with a transmitter in it. But she did it. People got suspicious, but she did the damn job. And even if it was really like, yes, it was stupid on her part. Maybe at some point she should have realized, hey, they're really zoning in on us. It's probably a good thing to get out. But she did it just because if she's around, her field agents would have the ability to send information back home in the safest possible way. She was the one ensuring that. And also the thing with being a wireless operator is, if someone found you with that giant transmitter and you couldn't prove why you had it, the presumption would be that you're a spy.
Yeah, I mean, duh. It's wartime. Of course, they would suspect that. Also, like the job of an operator involves like speed and precision, but also you just have to wait in one place forever.
Yeah.
But you can't stay in that place, stay on air for like too long because then
Yes.
you would be found by an enemy transmitter. It's very hella stressful.
I can't deal with those kind of instructions because those are not instructions. And also, dude, I read about this. The average life expectancy for a wireless operator during World War II was 8 weeks.
What? That is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, they were only in the job for 8 weeks. Why? Because they died.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Well,
it's insane. I'm sure she knew this. She's a smart woman. I'm sure she
yes.
knew this, but she was still out there.
But she got caught.
Yeah, well,
Yes. In June 1943, Noor was stationed in France as part of the Prosper network, where she was a radio operator. So by this point, Germany had France all up and invaded. So she was in German territory. A bunch of her colleagues had been rounded up by the Germans as well. And she was told that she would need to leave for Britain. But again, Noor was like, nah.
man, just okay. Now she's just being a little dumb. Okay, 1943 would mean like peak World War. The US
Yeah.
is already deep in it as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
come on, girl.
Yeah, so her superiors told her, okay, fine, stay, but do not transmit any signals. You can only receive them. So she agreed.
Okay.
However, a few days later, she was betrayed by a double agent. It's not entirely sure who, but there are two suspects. Both of them suck. They were former SOE officers and they were secretly working for the SS.
Right.
So one suspect was apparently Noor's friend, a woman named Renee Gary. She was allegedly, she just took like 500 pounds to betray her, which is,
Oh God.
yeah, it's kind of sad. Some people also say it's like a romance thing because Noor won the affections of a man that Renee wanted. But we're not going to speculate on that. Renee was tried for her crime after the war, but she was not convicted. Also, there was one more thing that gave her away. When the Germans were closing in on her, the SOE decided to like just give her like a makeover. So they got her hair done again and they got her a new wardrobe. Except it was the war and she couldn't get a stylist.
That's yes.
So she just picked out her own clothes. And the problem was everything that she picked was blue. Every single thing. And that's all it took for the Germans to find her. They were suspicious of it initially. And this just pretty much confirmed it.
man,
Yeah.
just,
yeah. Pick a different color.
just
So,
I don't know, dude. Maybe you know what? By this point, it's just possible that she was so stressed that she was probably
Possible,
looking for
possible.
something that would be just giving her some comfort. Maybe blue was it. I don't know. I mean, I can't even put myself in a situation and think how I would react. You know, I don't know. No idea.
there's no way. In fact, I remember reading some story where like she and another operative had worked for so long that she was so tired and they had to take
Yeah.
like a hotel room and she slept for like 2 hours. That's it.
Yeah,
She got up, splashed water on her face and was like, let's get back to it.
Yeah, this is some solid investment banker level of hustle.
Yes.
I can feel
Yes,
it.
it
Yeah.
was. So on 13th October 1943, Noor was arrested by the Gestapo, which was the German secret state police. She was taken to their headquarters in Paris to be interrogated. But Noor was a trooper. She tried twice to escape the grounds, but she was caught both times. There are reports that say that Noor did not reveal a thing to the Gestapo, and in fact, she actively lied to them. She often gave them wrong details about her family and her acquaintances, so it would take them like forever to find out the trail of information, and it would never lead anywhere useful. However, remember how we said earlier that Noor was not super careful about her documentation?
Oh no, clean desk policy.
Yes. So, yeah, the Germans eventually found out who she was. The worst part is they spent some time sending messages back to London while they were pretending to be her.
See, this one is particularly sad. Okay, so
It is.
from what I understand, Noor had a very distinct way of typing. Like she basically typed with what they call the fist, which is like a very heavy style of typing, and it's also very swift. So you can it's Morse code, right? So you can hear it literally,
Yeah.
as if it had happened. So the problem was the Gestapo had people who knew how to type like this as well. They imitated that specifically. But yet, there is a chance that the London office of the SOE could have followed up to check if something was wrong because they would know, like her handlers would know how she would
Yes.
type. The problem is they didn't. They just thought everything was okay. And this resulted in 3 more agents getting captured by the Gestapo by just doing this back and forth. Also, by the way,
yeah.
she tried to escape so many times that she was labeled as a very dangerous prisoner. And this led to the Gestapo placing some really heavy restrictions on her, including putting her in chains.
Ooh. And on that horrible note, let us take a quick break. And when we come back, what happened after she was caught?
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by Sharmeen Ali, founder and CEO of InStory, to discuss neuromarketing and how artificial intelligence can enhance empathy in content writing. Raghavi and Nisha are back with Misconduct Season 2. We begin with actress Maria Susairaj, involved in the killing of Neeraj Grover, a TV executive. On Akla Station Adulthood, Ekta Rajani, a fashion stylist, gives Ritasha and Ayushi hope, wisdom, and useful tips to beat the adulthood blues. On All Things Policy, Pratik Wagre and Rohan Sheth look at digital communication networks and their effects on public discourse. And on Come Home to Kotak, Cyrus talks to his friend Suresh about the steps ahead of buying his dream home, design, decor, and furniture. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slate Coffee, Intel, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back after the break. Just before this, you were talking about how Noor got captured. What happened after that? Now she's stuck in prison and she's labeled as a very dangerous prisoner. So Noor was held captive in the prison in Forzay, I think I'm pronouncing that right, by the Gestapo for almost 10 months after her capture. So like I said, she was classified as a very dangerous prisoner. And because of this, she was kept in solitary confinement throughout her imprisonment. So the Gestapo virtually starved her. They kept her on a diet of potato peel soup and nothing else. There were also chains that were binding her hands and her feet, and she couldn't even move around comfortably at all. She was also subjected to blows and beatings nearly every day, as the Gestapo asked her over and over again for the names of her colleagues. She never said anything to them, though. However, other prisoners have reported that they could hear her sobbing softly late in the night when the guards couldn't see or hear her. On 12 September 1944 at 2 a.m., Noor met 3 of her other fellow spies that she had trained with. All of these were women that she had met and she had worked with in her early days of SOE training. They were all captured by the Gestapo as well, and they were brought to the prison to await their sentence. Sort of very abruptly, these women were sent on their way to Dachau, which is a concentration camp in Germany. On 13 September 1944, the women reached the concentration camp. By the way, this was a camp that was built in 1933, which was the very first that Adolf Hitler constructed, as it was close to Munich, which was his military base. This is the camp where over 30,000 Jews, prisoners of war, gypsies, and homosexual men and women had been sent to their deaths. Hitler considered this camp so successful that he modeled another concentration camp after it, the one in Auschwitz.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be Noor's last night alive. And like you mentioned before, since she was labeled as very dangerous, she was singled out for torture at the camp. So just the hours before her execution, she was stripped and beaten countless times. She faced the last of her blows, like over those few hours. And right after that, an SS officer knelt beside her and held a pistol against her head, and the trigger was pulled. Noor was all of 30 years old, and she crumpled to the floor.
Ooh, 30 years old. That's quite painful.
Yep.
So Noor's body was never taken back to her family. She was cremated right there in Dachau. She was survived by her mother and 3 younger sisters. We have read reports that said when she was shot to death, she yelled out, "Liberty." Another report by a witness says that a guard tried to force her to say Heil Hitler, but she refused. Instead, she said, "One day you will see the truth." But sorry, but the second one seems a little bit hard to believe.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you know what? By that point, she was completely wasted away.
Yeah.
I mean, they were feeding her next to nothing, and she was in a concentration camp. She knew she was going to die.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
That's
even
right.
important by the end what she said. Like a lot of the
It's
articles
really
and books that we read really focused on this, like her last words, what she said, like it's some sort of insane sort of martyrship, but really all that does is oddly romanticizes that aspect of it.
Yes.
It's not important. There's a story here of a woman. She was brave and she was smart and she was hardworking and she was betrayed. And this is the life that you have to know about. It just so happens that what she did is also a crime, but her last words are just not important to this whole story.
Yeah, I don't know how she would have thought up those last words, considering she was like beaten to an inch of her
Yeah.
life.
That's right.
So yeah, it's like you said, it's not important. Her last words are not important. The work that she did, that is what is important. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about today. Also, her efforts were not in vain. So in
Mhm.
1949, Noor was posthumously awarded the George Cross, which
Mhm.
is the highest award presented by the British government for non-military or non-operational bravery in the face of an enemy.
Yeah, who won the George Cross recently?
Who?
All of the staff of the National Health Service, which is the healthcare system of the
Oh,
UK. Yeah, for all of their
yeah.
efforts all through COVID.
That's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
So, oh, when she was awarded the George Cross, the description that was announced said Assistant Section Officer Inayat Khan displayed the most conspicuous courage, both moral and physical, over a period of more than 12 months.
Hmm.
In 1956, there was also some chattering that she would be awarded a Member of the Order of the British Empire or an
Mhm.
OBE. But at that time, she was still listed as missing. So technically, she couldn't be awarded for it.
Right.
In November 2011, after a very long fundraising effort, which had raised almost £100,000, a bronze bust of Noor was inaugurated as a memorial near her old home in London.
Dude, also, and this is the bit that I'm a little jealous about. Noor got stamps issued in her name.
Oh, yeah.
In 2014, the UK Royal Mail issued a series of stamps which included Noor as well.
I thought you'd be more excited by the fact that she might be on the £50 bill.
Yeah, but that didn't actually happen, which is quite
Yeah.
sad.
Well, I mean, I guess they have to make do with the Queen's face again.
So, yeah, in any case, I think the UK government has made enough effort to make sure Noor's legacy is still, alive. She spent essentially 12 months working on field, then another 9 months in captivity. She was tortured to the point that she was so frail and weak and she could barely just even stand up. And yeah, I understand it was wartime, okay? But just about everything that she did during this period, sure, very, very brave and for her country. Still a crime though, and had to have, she eventually was ended up imprisoned and executed. And that's just how, unfortunately, wars work.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be wartime, right? Like, you remember our episode on Madhuri Gupta, the IFS officer in Pakistan, who just passed on information to the ISI agent?
Yeah.
Well, that episode pissed off a lot of people who came to our social media to tell us Madhuri should have been hanged or shot to death or whatever. So
Yeah.
clearly, this is the kind of thing that sparks a lot of extreme opinions in people's mind.
That's true. And see, there is one thing we should remember, okay? If Germany had won this war and they were able to, rewrite history as the victors, Noor's name would just be lost. Like she would just be another unnamed traitor of the Third Reich. And the Allies, luckily won in the end. So Noor was fortunate enough to be labeled as a martyr. If it was the other way around, nobody would know that she existed.
That's true. And that's pretty much all it came down to, right? Did Noor deserve to be tortured and beaten for all those months? No way. Did she deserve to lose her life so violently over her country? Also, no. But is what she did technically, in all fairness, espionage and treason? Yes. So it really is as simple and yet as complicated as that. Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
why did you bring up the fact that you only buy clothes in one color when you first started the episode?
Oh, I actually thought it was kind of strange that, she loved the color blue and then that ended up being her
Oh.
downfall, sort of. But here's
Wow,
a
you're really
fun
projecting
fact.
there.
Yeah, well, it was kind of the reason that she got one of the reasons that she got caught, besides the fact that she was betrayed. But
Yeah, that's true.
but like there's a quirky coincidence. She was recently given the Blue Plaque, which the Blue Plaque is a scheme that's run by the English Heritage Charity. It was founded in 1866. So the scheme actually honors buildings where notable figures of history lived or had worked. So there's a plaque outside Noor's family home, and it reads Noor Inayat Khan GC, 1914 to 1944. SOE agent codename Madeline stayed here. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I think she was one of the first of Indian origin women who got the Blue
Oh.
Plaque. So yeah. That's pretty
I
cool.
think she was the first Indian origin woman for a lot of things, including the
was.
fact, like wireless operator, dispatch to France. There's a lot of stuff in there, man. She was
Yeah.
a pretty cool woman. But that sort of brings us to the end of our episode now.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sticking it out with us. You would have noticed we don't have a song. Why is that, Nisha?
Because I am not Noor Inayat Khan who can randomly compose music. It is hard work.
That is fair. And I respect that, as should all of you listeners. You'll find our sources for this episode in our blog. Please go check it out.
And you can find us on Instagram. I am at just.nishful.thinking.
Oh, and I am at ragi.dose.
And we'll see you on the next episode of Misconduct.
See you guys.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.